Had to restart the live stream because apparently we couldn't be heard in the previous one. So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Maria Baez, and this is my mom here.
Hello.
And I've mentioned this before in my previous videos that she is a youth pastor, so she's also known as Pastor Stacy. So our main topic for today is really just going to be about like the youth and like what made you want to be a youth pastor, and like we're going to go down the line of different questions like that.
Sure.
So let's just start with the very first one, which is what made you want to be a youth pastor?
Well, I want to say thank you for having me on. I have avoided the video as much as I can so that I am not on those videos, but I felt it was an absolute honor to be able to talk about a topic like this. What made me want to be a youth pastor? I actually had a very good youth pastor for myself.
Okay.
I know that there are many that would probably think that there were a lot of mistakes made during the time of his ministry with our generation, but for me, he was perfect for me. He was very intentional. He became a part of my life, and he allowed me to be a part of his life with his wife and his two kids. And my husband your dad also had a very good youth pastor as well. His name is Pastor Mitchell Torres, and right now he's running his own church in the Bronx, but before he did that, he was there for my husband. He was very involved. There were boundaries, but there were no boundaries. There weren't any situations in his life that he felt like, okay, that doesn't require for me to step in. He talked to Sam about sex. He talked to him about school. He talked to him about the death of his dad. And when he was falling off with God, he made sure to step in. And he didn't do that with just your dad. He did that for all of his teens. And he was so involved in the lives of the kids. It kind of makes me feel bad that we don't see that with all the other youth pastors. It's very rare, because usually youth pastors have a line that goes, well, they don't want to listen, so they're going to go off. Mitchell and JD were not like that. They will go into the trenches with you. They would make sure that if you're not coming back to church, he made sure you knew he loved you, he cared for you, but he wasn't going to fall for the things that you were doing. And it was those kind of examples that made me want to be a youth pastor. But my youth pastor said to me, he goes, you know what, you'd be a really good pastor's wife. And I was like, pastor's wife? I don't want to be no pastor's wife. I want to be the pastor.
I want to be the pastor.
I wanted to be the pastor. So I actually went to Bible school to teach him and show him that I could be the pastor. Now, my husband at the time, or, my boyfriend at the time, was not interested in being in full-time ministry as a pastor, so it wasn't a big deal. His desire was to be in the film industry and drama and all that other stuff. So when I went away for Bible school, he never had it in his mind that full-time ministry was the thing that he was going to do. So he encouraged me. He goes, yeah, sure, go ahead. And then you know what happened?
You became a pastor.
I became a pastor's wife.
Yeah.
I became a pastor's wife first.
The very thing your youth pastor said you'd be very good at being.
Yes, and I was so offended, but he knew exactly what I was going to be good at. So I ended up being a youth pastor's wife for several years before becoming an actual youth pastor.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So when you eventually, well, first, how old were you when you became a youth pastor?
When I stepped into the role of a youth pastor, it was in 2019.
2019. Okay. So throughout the different generations of you being with youth groups and stuff like that, even when dad was the youth pastor and you were just helping him with different youth group events, what was some of the main patterns that you saw in each generation? And for example, do you feel like each generation struggled a lot with respecting their parents? Did you feel like they struggled a lot with dating? What was something you saw in every single generation that had to either be a struggle or something really good?
I love that question. I think it was something I had to take a minute, because I thought about the good and the bad patterns. And first, even though my husband was the youth pastor, we stepped into full-time youth ministry when I was 23.
Okay.
And he did it for several years, and I was by his side as if, because I was like, I'm supposed to do it. So I was with him only because my heart and my passion was. Most pastors' wives, youth pastors' wives, may not be as active as I was. And I say all that to say is we weren't just there with them during the ages of 11 to 18. We stepped into their young adult life as well. So some of them we knew before they became teens. Then we were with them as teenagers, and we were with them as young adults.
Okay.
So I will tell you, I noticed the pattern that I would lose my young adults. That was the pattern. My pattern was almost, I would say 80% of my teenagers I ended out losing by the time they were 16, 17 years old to a relationship, or once they started to go to college. They found the world different. They didn't know how to handle the temptations that were coming. And I also saw that once certain people got into college, and the professors would start to challenge them on their faith or start to implement certain things, they weren't allowed to speak about certain topics. I found that they start to drift away more. They got jobs, they had lives, they wanted to be with someone, they started dating someone, and then it became too serious. I saw sex before marriage, a huge thing. If they started dating too early, they gave themselves away very early. I can count on a few hands. No, fingers. Few fingers. Just how many actually kept themselves until they got married. So I do feel that I had more bad patterns than I can say good. One last pattern I noticed is that once I spoke into a teen's future, and I said, I see God doing this with you and you doing this in ministry, I lost them. Because that's when the enemy would kind of snatch them.
I actually remember that there was one time where we were at youth group and we were doing worship. It was me and then a few other people on the team. We were doing worship, and you called out specific teenagers that were in the front row. Yes. Told them to come forward, and unfortunately, I want to say all of them, if not maybe one of them, is still good now, but practically all of them that you spoke a word over, from what I hear, they're not doing well. Two of them I still speak to, and they're not in a good situation at all. Yeah. So I completely understand what you're saying with that. That's sad.
Yeah. Once the teenager's identity and what they're going to do for the kingdom of God gets exposed, the enemy starts to mess with them. And a lot of them cannot go against the temptation, the struggle, but they will circle around. Many of them have circled around and they'll do it, but it isn't without a serious journey where they make some unfortunate mistakes.
Kind of going off of that question, first I'm going to ask you a little side thing, and then I'm going to go to the next question that kind of relates to what you're talking about. Do you think part of the reason when you lost your young adults mainly was also due to the parenting, or the, what's it called, the culture of the family, or what the family believed? Because we all know not everyone who comes to youth group, their family is 100% saved. So do you think that had something to do with it?
I would say 90% of it, because the idea that parents had for their kids never usually aligned with what God wanted. And so if a child felt, or a teenager felt like God was calling them into the ministry, their parents were not helping them. They said, you have to get an education, you have to do this, you can do all of that when college is done. You can do all of that when this is done. You have to fulfill this. You have you're great at soccer, you're great at basketball. So, they would continue to push them in that direction, where church isn't even second in a lot of people's home. Usually church is like the thing that's the extracurricular. So if the child didn't want to come to youth group because they had fallen into, like, just an example, like, let's just say, I'll talk about, David. Let's say that I spoke to David and David just got called out, like, God is going to use you to do this, this, this. David is going through temptation. He has fallen. He's struggling. That child is not going to say, hey, mom, it's youth group. I want to go to youth group. No, they're going to be sick. They're not going to feel well. They want to stay home. So the parent is going to, all right, you can stay home. Because it's just youth group.
Yeah.
It's not even a Sunday morning. It's not important enough to the parent for them to realize, no, just like if the child is sick, you take them to the doctor. When your child is spiritually ill, you don't let them stay home from youth group. You bring them to youth group. Yeah. That it's not seen as what it should be.
Something I do wish other parents did, like, especially the parents who say that they're also Christians. Like, obviously, if there are certain situations going on, I could give leeway on, like, keeping them home from youth group or from church and stuff like that. But with other situations, whenever you disciplined, like, me and my siblings, a punishment was never, all right, you're never allowed to go to youth group. Right. You're never allowed to go to Sunday school. Like, if anything, because you were our youth pastor, the punishment was you can go to youth group, but you're not participating in any of the games. And I think you've actually told me and my older brother, Joey, that you would have other parents come to you saying, yeah, I'm going to bring them to youth group, but make sure they don't get any snack, make sure they don't participate in any of the games, make sure that they're fully obedient. Like, you would have parents making sure you're keeping the kid accountable too. Yeah. So I just wish more parents were like that.
Yeah, there were a few parents that would bring their child to youth group and they'd sit in the back and they'd wait for youth group to be over and then be like, let's go. And then they'd take them home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me just see real quick. I think someone said something. I'm not exactly sure. How many people do you guys have in our youth group? So let's actually go back to the one that I started in first. The one that I started in with you, how many people would you say were in that youth group?
On roster, there are about 45 to 60 kids.
45 to 60 kids. And we just started up a new youth group in our current church. And there's, technically 15 of us?
There's about 15 to 20. We're starting from the ground up.
Yeah. So there's currently 15 to 20 of us.
When we did start our youth group, when we first did it, we started off with one child. One. Nora. Oh, I love Nora. Nora, if you're out there, I love you, girl. But we went from one and we ended with about 300 on roster.
Wow.
And we had 120 that came on a given youth group day.
Like a daily basis?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a lot.
That's insane. So kind of rewinding a little bit more to, like, we were talking about your young adults, like, falling off and stuff like that because of what the world was teaching them. Has there ever been a moment where you or another youth leader or, like, dad has taught something in youth group and the student complained about it or, like, had an issue with it?
Oh, yes.
If so, well, what was the topic and argument?
Okay, so I thought of it, and there's one of my, he's a young adult now. Well, he's not even a young adult anymore. He's like, he's a married old man. But his name is Vin. And Vin was amazing, but he gave me heartburn. So he gave me so much heartburn.
I remember him.
Oh my gosh. Of course you remember him. Vin was amazing because if I didn't know the word, he would call, like, he was not playing. Like, you couldn't spit in the air and say it was raining. He was like, no, don't play. Like, he's like, don't play with me. Don't give me that. Don't give me, like, he knew when you weren't real. And if you said anything about the word and it didn't make sense, he wasn't going to talk to you on the side. He'll raise his hand in the middle of youth group and he will totally challenge you.
So would you say, like, he was full of discernment, or, like, he was just, like, really interested in learning?
He wanted to make sure that before he ate what you put on his plate, he wanted to know
what it was.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he wanted to know, does he like all the ingredients you put in? So we were doing a series on Mark Batterson's book, In the Pit with a Lion on a Snowy Day. And I decided to take the story of Peter and Jesus walking on the water. And I mean, I was feeling myself. I thought I was good, like I'm talking about the faith of the disciples and the faith of Peter and Jesus walking on the water. And Vin raises his hand. He goes, to me, this is meaningless. He's like, this was a meaningless miracle. And I'm thinking to myself, Jesus, Lord, help me. I want to jump over this chair and beat him. But I was like, go ahead, Vin. What do you mean? He goes, what was this for? Jesus told the disciples, go into the boat, that he knew there was going to be a storm. And they are scared out of their mind. What, just for them to see that Jesus could walk on water? He goes, what was the walking on the water for but to frustrate them, to show them they can't? Because we've never done it. No one's ever done it except for Peter. He's like, but it's one of those miracles that no one says, oh, I did it. Yes, there was someone who raised someone from the dead and someone has healed the lame person. But have you ever heard of someone walking on water? He's like, it's one of those moments where it's like, what am I supposed to do with this? I can't do this. And he was right. And I walked him through everything. He wanted to always see his name in the Bible. Like I always train my kids, my teenagers, see yourself in the Bible. That's not David, that's Maria. And he's like, I can't see my name with Peter. And so that was a moment where he's like, I'll take what you're feeding me, but this one doesn't make sense. So that was that was right in the middle of youth group. It was an honest conversation that I felt like that was really good.
Have you ever had I'm excited for this one. Have you ever had a moment where you've taught a specific topic? So like the same question, but a parent complained about it.
Oh, yes.
What was the topic and what was the argument?
So remember, I followed my kids after youth group. So I was with them as a young adult as well. So is that okay if I kind of...
Yeah.
So by the time you're 16, I do start to train or do Bible studies about youth creating a world for themselves, which is true. Like each teenager has already started making their own world. They have started having friends that their parents don't have to approve of. They're watching things, they're saying things, they're doing things. So I've had to have a conversation or a message on creating a world where God is in the center. And I had to tell them the truth. I say, this is a world where your parents are being interviewed to see if they'll be a part. See, when children are born, when babies are born, we are creating that world for them. A world of, I'm going to put you in front of the TV show I want you to put in. I'm going to make you eat the food that I want you to eat. The friends the play dates, you can't go there unless I take you there.
Yeah.
But there comes a point where the child decides, I either don't want to be in the world you've created for me, or I need to create one for myself. And so instead of me trying to get them to fit into their parents' world, I have had to teach them how to make a world for themselves in a healthy manner. And honestly, a lot of the reasons why I do lose my teens is because the parent does not feel like the word and their views are coming together. Because God starts to speak to teenagers and children and he says, from before I formed you in the womb, I called you to be a prophet to the nations. Many parents don't want their children called to be prophets. So they're not going to raise them to be prophets. But if God has called them, my job is not to follow the blueprint that a parent has set up. My job is to hear from the Lord and have them follow the blueprint that God has for them. So my one lady, she was upset because the young adult, she was about 19. And we were talking about life goals and having some life plans. So I talked to her about saving money and eventually moving out of her house and eventually making a space for her. Her Mother lost it.
Just because of you preparing her for...
Yes.
Okay.
Because apparently the young lady was going to work and she was giving her whole check. And the mother was giving her back her allowance. So she would work, and at the end of the day, she, at 19, 20, she was giving her mother, all right, this is my paycheck and all my tips and everything I have. And then the mom would give her not even 10% of it and said, here, this is your spending money. And so she was never able to save. She goes, I can't save, So I said, okay, well, then you have to do things differently. I said, you're planning to be a wife. You are planning to move out. I said, so you have to be a steward of the funds that God has given you. So, and then I said, if you could steward the money, what would you do? She goes, I'd get my own place. She goes, but I could never get my own place. And so in my young adult conversations, I was talking to them about credit cards and not having loans and all this other stuff, and then getting an apartment, getting a place for yourself. And sure enough, she took me on every word. And her mother was livid. She said, how dare you? How could you do this? And sure enough, to my surprise, that girl moved out. She moved out. She had an apartment for a few years. She got married. She had kids, like everything. And the mother was still, like, I never reconciled with that mother because I took away her daughter from her. I took away her income and all this other stuff. So,
Was the mother working?
Yes, the mother was working.
Okay.
Parents keep their children as children way too long. And any good youth leader needs to prepare them to have a life that is according to the word of God. And remember, they started at 13. A girl, once she started having her menstrual cycle, she was being prepared for marriage. So we have babied our children to stay suckled onto our parents way too long. And when we start to implement those things, parents get upset.
Yeah. This isn't on the question, but this is just something I was thinking about, like, as you were talking. Obviously, my siblings and I have gone to other youth groups, and not because she was a bad youth pastor, but, like, our friends would invite us to their youth groups because we invited them to ours and stuff like that. So, we're not going to say the name.
Right.
But has there been youth pastors where you completely disagreed with? Yeah, I already know the answer, but I'm asking we don't say the name of the youth group.
No.
We're not going to say the name, but what was it that youth pastor did that you completely disagreed with? Completely disagreed with.
Well, I won't say how it happened, but I will say that one of my youth were in the background of another girl's, I think it was Snapchat. So it's that video that's only for a short period of time and then it's removed. I think it is.
Yeah.
So the girl was literally like dancing raunchy behind one of my youth group members. He did not have any idea what was going on, and the music that was being played was a secular song.
In the youth group.
Okay. And the lights were down low like it was a club. So I went to the young man and I said, did you know that so-and-so was behind you, like twerking? And he goes, no, I didn't know. And I said, what's going on in that youth group? And he's like, oh, they're always playing like secular music and Christian music. And one of there was a young girl that was there as I was talking with him, and he said, and she was saying, yes, that's the normal. I remember seeing the girl dancing. So I called the youth pastor and I said, why are you allowing secular music and that atmosphere like a club? He goes, well, we aren't a club, but we want to give them that feeling, almost to feed the club desire. So, we give them that vibe so that they don't go out into the world. And I said, I've never heard that.
Because that's not what you're supposed to do.
No, you're not supposed to give them something that's like the world so they don't go to the world. if they can get it in the world, why are they coming to church? You must give them something different. And I said, I have been in youth ministry for a very long time. I have never had to feed my kids a club mentality so that they can stay. You know, you don't try to keep your kids in carnality by giving them a form of carnality. You give them righteousness and you ask God to do the rest.
Yeah.
So I had that conversation. And the mother ended up taking that young man out of the youth group, and all the friends that came with him stopped going as well.
Yeah. I'll share one of my personal experiences. Like, that same youth group. Oh, someone sent a message. I can't see it. Chat for you guys. Oh, okay. I'll read her question first. Are they scared because they don't know what's going to happen next? I think she's talking to like to you about the previous question where like the young adults like don't know like their next steps. Like,
yes.
Okay.
A lot of the teens did not know how to do life because their parents wouldn't tell them
Keep going.
the next step. So it was almost like the parent kept that step from them because they felt like they were not mature enough to do it. So they would come to me and talk to me about it, and then I say, you know, if you want, we can talk with your parent about it. And a lot of the times, 98.9%, the kids do not want to talk to their parents because they feel like their parents are not going to support them in that.
Yeah. So one of my personal experiences with that same youth group, first off, one of my friends invited me to that youth group, and I already knew she was going to say no because of what had happened with the person she just spoke about. So my friend, he had gone to this youth group for about a year, and he invited me to one of the events, and I said, I'm going to ask my mom, but I don't think she's going to say yes. If I say yes, I'll let you know. We'll see what happens. She did not allow me to go to that youth group unless he was there, because every time I went, and I mean every single time that I went to this youth group, the sermon and the worship time were shorter than the game times combined. So there was worship, there was the word, but it would probably be like half an hour combined, and then the games were like another hour and a half. So that's 2 hours of me being there, and only a quarter of the time there was Christ involved. So I had an issue with that youth group because it made it seem like it was just a hangout group.
Right.
And then we have an issue with my generation where it's like people my age are straying away from the word and like getting involved with sex before marriage, getting involved with listening to secular music and stuff like that, and we're complaining about it, but then it's youth groups like that are the cause of that.
Right.
Also in that youth group, people were allowed to say the N-word. People were allowed to curse there and were not being reprimanded. And I said to my friend, I'm not coming anymore, because not that it was affecting me, but I'm like, I am not going to support a youth group that does that.
Right.
So the reason why I'm sharing my personal experience from it, one, to back up what she's saying, two, if a youth group that any of you are going to are doing that, it's not biblical. Like, it's not according to the word. That's only going to make things worse. I saw a question. I'm going to see if I can pull it up. And ma'am, was your mother and father or pastors as well?
My mother and father did not raise me Christian. My mom later, she ended up becoming a pastor. I don't know how old I was. I was in my 20s. And my mom, she started her own church. So I was not raised in a Christian home.
Yeah. And then let me see what the other question was. Oh, you kind of already answered this. What was the hardest part about being a youth pastor? And why?
The hardest part of being a youth pastor, there are many reasons why it was hard. Definitely seeing them go off and having to make unnecessary mistakes. You want to keep them from making the mistakes you know are right there for them. But this is one of the things that I've learned is youth ministry this age group is not an age group that, like, you don't time out, like, all right, you know, you're 35, I don't need to be there for you anymore. There are people that I met when, like Aaliyah, I met her at 4. I'm actually gonna go see Aaliyah, you know, now with her mom, and she's in her 20s. Then you have Cassie, who's married, you know, I've known since she was 9 or 10. And then I talked about Vincent. And so I think what's really hard is that you see them going down the road and you can't walk on the journey with them. You have to let them go, but you have to be right there when they're ready to turn around. And sometimes you can feel unappreciated. Sometimes you can feel hurt, because in the midst of them hurting themselves, they hurt you too. You know, I've gotten into arguments with Vin, you know, a couple of times. I've gotten into arguments with different teens that I'm still close with right now. But I had to be able to hold my ground, that I love them unconditionally and that I can't take it personal. Even though there are those relationships that I've had to be like, I don't care. I don't care how much you come to Jesus. Me and you can never talk. Like, I just can't. Like, me and you, it's totally done. But I remember, like, I mentioned her name already, Cassie. Cassie, I knew when she was 9. I met her at 9, and she has 3 kids. She has 3 kids. She's been married for a while. And in her journey, we got into some harsh conversations. I had to say the truth. And honestly, I can't say that I said the truth, you know, perfectly, but it was the truth. But if I did the truth and I had a touch of anger from the world, like worldly anger, then it's not going to be received properly. And it was hard for her to hear me say some things which I needed to tell her. But one thing she never said, don't ever talk to me again. She never stopped talking to me. When I gave her a break because I had said something harsh, she was always the one to text me in a couple of months saying, hey, I haven't heard from you. How's everything? Or she'll send me a picture, look at what I'm doing. And we have been able to keep a very intense, loving, open, transparent relationship. She lives in North Carolina right now, and she'll just text me randomly, you know? So I feel that it's really hard to stay by a teen's side, knowing that they're about to go in a really bad direction, but also being there for them when they come back and not taking it personal.
You mentioned that there were some youth members that, like, when they walked away, you didn't even, like, go back to them. You were like, absolutely not. Again, I know the answer, but just for them, has there ever been a time where you've kicked someone out of your youth group? And I'm not talking about, like, leaders or stuff. I mean, like, literal students that you said, don't come back here.
Come back never?
Come back never.
No.
Okay, come back never. You've never said that, but
No.
have you kicked them out?
I don't want to use the word kick them out because it's very painful. But yes, I've had to dismiss teams.
Okay.
And it goes along with the word, because there are times when someone keeps doing something over and over and over again. And I did have one young lady who I dismissed probably like 3 times. I kicked her out 3 times. So there was never come back. It was always, you're going to take a break. So she was going from guy to guy. She was having sex with different guys. And you know how it was usually the guy that's like jumping for, no, she was going to the guy and then she'd go to the next guy while still being with that guy, and that guy is broken. Our altars were filled with crying boys. That was the only time in my life where I saw boys weeping before the Lord. And it was because she broke them. All the time. Like, I was like, this is crazy. I mean, I did.
How old was she?
I mean, it ranged from 14 to 18, 19. Yeah. So she was doing this from 14 to 18, 19.
Wow.
And she was ruining them. Like they would be on fire, and she would always go after that one kid that I put up on the pulpit to like preach or to help, or he was a leader. She would always attach herself to that guy. And then I'd find out that they're dating, and I'd sit with that kid, and I'm like, bro, no. No. He said, no, she said that I'm different. I'm like, bro, please prove me wrong. Prove me wrong by leaving her. Stay with me. Stay here. And then do your thing. And if she's still there, then she's the one for you. Never. Like never, ever, ever. And I lost, like, I was really close. And she would also do this. She would also attach herself to any young men that were close to our family, because she wanted to be close to our family. She was very toxic. She had spread a rumor that one of your family members, I don't know if you've ever heard this story, but she spread the rumor that your uncle had raped her. I know.
That makes no sense.
I know. But that was the extent. Like and it wasn't just that young man or, your uncle, but there were other young men that she just would not stop. And we had a traveling drama team, and we had her on, and she would cause division. She would lie. Like, it was really bad. And every time I gave her a time to come back, I regretted it. But I had to keep giving, I had to give her grace. But there were times she was the number one. And she's one of them that I'm like, I don't care how much Jesus you get, girl, you are not coming near me. Like, I wouldn't even trust her with my husband at all. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then the last and final question. What do you feel are the qualifications that a person needs to have if they want to be a youth pastor? Because this goes the same thing with like every career or whatever. Like, if you want to do something, not everyone's called to it. So if someone out there feels like they're being called to be a youth pastor, what's something they need to have in mind that they need to be, that they need to have the heart for?
Youth.
And I explain that a bit more.
Because I don't know if they're still doing it, but during the time that I was in seminary, no one is going to hire a 21-year-old right out of college to be a senior pastor. So what they're going to do is they're going to cut their teeth in youth ministry. So it's their opportunity to learn how to manage a church by managing a youth group. I don't know if you kind of realize, but a youth group is almost a separate congregation. Like, it's not the same. They have their own dynamic. Youth group, they're having offering, they're having their own worship. Like, it's literally a church within a church. So a youth pastor would say, okay, I'll be in youth ministry for 5-6 years, see what God does, just so that I can prepare to be associate, and then kind of go up in the ranks. And for the most part, most youth pastors don't stay youth pastors past 6 to 7 years.
Okay.
Because they want to go to the next level. So it's almost like youth ministry or children's ministry is the lowest level, and then you're kind of working your way up. If you have that mentality, do not be a youth pastor. That is not what God is calling us to. If you're called to children, then that's what you're called to. If you're called to youth, then that means that you don't get to say, okay, I'm only staying for 5-6 years and then I move on. My husband was a youth pastor at 22, and he stayed in youth ministry where I ended up taking on for 28 years. We did it for 28 years. And I sat in rooms where I should be ashamed, because I'm sitting there amongst all these young bucks, and they're like, we want to honor you, Stacy, because, we thank you, but it's very rare to hear someone who's been in youth ministry for 28 years. Like, what's your secret? I'm like, loving youth group.
Yeah.
So I feel as though if in order to be in youth ministry, that has to be your heart. Like, not moving up in the ranks. If God's called you to be a senior pastor, don't use youth ministry as a playing field, because once because teens attach themselves to you like a third parent, or another member of the family. And if you're like, well, my time is done and I'm moving on and I'm leaving you behind, then you've broken them. Like, they're not like adults where they can kind of understand that you're moving on. Youth don't understand that. So they're wanting you to walk this road with them. So after they're done with high school, then what's the next thing? It's college, and then it's marriage, and then it's kids. Like, they want you a part of that. But if you were only there because, well, I'm only in your life because, during this time, it breaks them.
Yeah.
So you have to be willing, if you're going to be a youth pastor, be willing to walk this road with that generation that you're with for that season through every step. Like every step. Because remember that world I was telling you about that they create?
Yep.
You've interviewed for that world. And they've asked you to come in. And unless they fire you, if you leave their world and they didn't want you to, you change all the dynamics. You turn everything upside down.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, is there any final thing? Actually, I'm going to see real quick if our friends said anything else. I don't think so. But is there anything else you would like to say to them? Like, I don't know, like any encouraging words? Like if they're a part of a youth group, if it's an adult who is aiming for some kind of ministry with the church in general, it doesn't have to be a youth pastor position. But like, is there any final encouraging words?
I will say if you're really young and you're a part of a youth group, I pray that your youth group is giving you what you need, not just with games and all that other stuff. It's not about like substituting the world for God. Like, you have to love God, and you want to be under leadership that follows the word 100%. There's something called syncretism. I think it's syncretism. I'll figure it out. But it's where you marry the world and God, and you put it together and you do it. And I think that that's what's going on in a lot of youth groups, where we can listen to secular music and Christian music. We can use Christianese, and we can use potty words. Like.
And you're saying that's not okay to do.
That is not okay to do.
That's not okay to do.
Your youth group should be separate from the world. And if you're in a part of a youth group that is separate from the world, but you feel like you're bored, I'm like, that's the youth group to stay in, because that's the one that's going to teach you the word, that's going to teach you how to be able to get through. You're set apart. So if you're set apart, then you should be in a youth group that is set apart from the world, not like the world. If you have a hunger and a desire to be with teenagers, be careful stepping into that role, because you are going to make the world of difference for them, even if they don't talk to you. If a teenager opens up to you for the first time, in like a month, don't trust it. Like, it's weird when a teenager opens up that quick. But when a teenager kind of like sees if, okay, I act up and you're still there, I say the wrong thing and you're still there, I say the right thing and you're there. Like, they want to see that you're going to be consistent, because a lot of kids don't have consistency in their family, in their home. So when they find consistency in someone that's solid, they're going to attach themselves to you even when they're not doing the right thing. And you have to be willing to stay strong like Christ goes, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. But also, you can't walk on certain journeys with them, but be right there for them when their journey is over, and they can say, you know what? You're always there for me. You were right. I love you. Those kind of things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello. There's our friend there saying hi. I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. we're definitely going to see you again
Yes.
very, very soon. I've said this before in the previous video. If you guys have any questions of any kind, whether it's biblical topics or like even questions you have about the world and like how that might relate to if you're a Christian, like how to deal with certain things, God bless you as well, my friend. If you guys have any questions of any kind, please leave them either in the comments on the post section or right here in the video, and I'll look back at them while we're done or while we're finishing up. But yeah, would you like to pray us out before we end the live stream? All right.
Lord, right now I thank you and I praise you, Father, for this opportunity to just speak to this topic. We love youth. We love teenagers and, Father, young adults. And Lord, we know that the enemy is trying to steal this season of life from them by injecting his own design. But Father, I thank you and I praise you in advance for all the things that you're going to do with this live stream, Lord God. And we ask, Father, that there will be those who will come across it and feel encouraged, get a little bit more understanding. And Lord, I pray that you'll be with Maria as she just continues to navigate with the topics so that she can meet the needs for those who are watching. We thank you and we praise you for all that you've done and all that you're going to do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, you guys have a great rest of your day or night, wherever you're located, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.